While Tiger only teed up in the majors this past year, he was still awarded as the winner for the second straight year of the PGA Tour's Player Impact Program. And you may recall this had a lot to do with kind of the popularity of the players based on the objective third-party data measurement 1 year ago. Internet searches, number of times a player's name is searched using Google, earned media, TV sponsor exposure, awareness, and social media as well. And for more, let's welcome in Todd Lewis, who was on site with the commissioner last week. T. Lou, what did Jay Monahan say regarding Tiger Woods and the PIP program?
Well, he actually talked about this when the PGA Tour announced these designated events at the Tour Championship in Atlanta last year. But he was pressed about Tiger Woods and not being a part of all of these designated events last week at Kapalua. And the thing is that if a player is injured or incapable physically of playing an event, then the tour is not going to hold that against that player. Now, we all know what Tiger's issues are, but let's use a more recent player who's got a problem. Xander Schauffele, he pulled out last week of the Century Tournament of Champions because he's got a back issue. Let's say that back issue continues to linger and he is incapable of playing the two West Coast designated events, the WM Phoenix Open and the following week, the Genesis Invitational. The tour is not going to hold that against him and hold back his PIP money because of an injury. And the same is true with Tiger Woods. Now, there's another caveat with this as well. It's up to the discretion of the commissioner to make the decisions. And I can promise you, Tiger Woods will play as much as he can physically. He will be getting his PIP bonus money. Tiger could post a video on social media of him brushing and flossing, and immediately he would be #1 in the PIP category. The other thing is that the players really have no issue in regards to Tiger Woods not playing all of the designated events, which is likely to happen because of the injuries that he is facing. So really not a big issue amongst the PGA Tour and amongst the players in regards to Tiger Woods.
Fantastic reporting, Todd. This is an interesting situation because Tiger has meant so much to the game of golf, to sports at large, and to hear Tiger, you know, the fact that he kind of helped build the modern-day PGA Tour and he's been a part of these meetings. But I guess I wonder, Eamon, is how much clarity does this situation need? Because is Tiger just going to get PIP money in perpetuity? Is it going to be cut off at the age of 50? The players just might say one thing publicly, might be whispering something else privately. What do you see here? What's important here?
I guess it's as long as Tiger Woods is active, Tiger Woods is likely to win the PIP. And I'm fine with that. I think a lot of players are, because the PIP is ultimately about measuring intangibles. The FedEx Cup, all the other bonus money measures tangible performance on the golf course. The PIP measures performance that is largely intangible off the golf course. And it's basically who engages, who moves the needle, who puts eyeballs on the product. That's Tiger, Tiger, and Tiger.
Yes.
And it's a $100 million bonus fund in the PIP this year. 15 million of it goes to Tiger Woods. That 15% is his commission, because the other 85 million they're paying out wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Tiger Woods.
But then there's not really a race for the PIP if Tiger Woods is on the ballot, as it were.
I don't know. You look at the antics of DeChambeau and Koepka a couple of years ago, you would have thought there was a race for the PIP when people are going to...
I just wonder, and I want to bring Paige McKenzie into this conversation as well. As a player, Paige, and someone who also has dealt with injury, do you think that the membership is just going to be okay knowing that Tiger Woods, what he has meant to the game of golf, he can kind of collect as many PIP checks as he wants?
Yes. I think so, because I think most players see the burden that the top players are under every single week. And I mean, for Tiger Woods, it extends beyond the ropes and tournament sites. It's about going to restaurants and being recognized. And that's part of the superstardom. So everyone has a market value off the golf course, whether it's a corporate appearance, a speaking engagement, a pro-am that you get paid to go play in, a corporate outing. Everyone's got a value. And the only difference between what's happening now is that the PGA Tour is paying it out versus a third party or any of the other sponsorship endeavors. So I truly think it's more payment for continuing to engage in being a professional golfer. Some people don't think you should be paid to do that, or at least paid by the PGA Tour to do that. But I think Tiger Woods, he's an ambassador of the PGA Tour everywhere he goes. So he's just getting recognized and paid for that.
Are you comfortable with the fact that it's the commissioner's discretion on whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, considering that other players get injured as well, and that Xander Schauffele, for example, is dealing with his own ailments?
I'm comfortable with the discretion, but transparency legitimizes that discretion. The players are sent every month their standing in the PIP program. They know where they rank in it. And this year, unlike previous years, the money has been paid out to the top 20 golfers under the set criteria. If those numbers and standings are sent to the players every year, there's no reason why they can't be available to fans as well.
Yeah.
We know that this is an ongoing bonus program for the tour. The fans want to know who moves eyeballs, because suddenly if a name that you don't expect pops up in the top 10 of the PIP, maybe you're going to pay more attention to that guy. Or maybe you're going to think, well, they must be a pretty good social media follower.
Follow them. Yeah.
All it does is add to the eyeballs, add to the transparency. There's no reason why those numbers should just be given to players.
How about that, Paige? How important is transparency, considering this isn't all about meritocracy? This isn't all about who shoots 30 under par. There is an element of popularity here. It's a different metric than we've seen traditionally in professional golf.
Well, to some extent, they did try to eliminate some of the more frivolous popularity aspects of it. They did rework some of the criteria in evaluating for this upcoming season. But I truly, just personally, I don't really care. It's not important to me to know who gets the bonus money, because I know the names on that list, we're going to know who they are as it relates to, they're going to be the most famous guys, the ones that are getting the best and biggest exposure on television, the groups in those featured groups on the PGA Tour week in and week out. Like, we know who they are. Do I care to know how much money the PGA Tour is paying them? I personally don't. I understand how fans are, but for me, it's not important. It's just that's bonus money on that they get for the burden that they are under.
Yeah, and nobody's had a bigger burden than Tiger here.
But it's also setting an example for future generations of tour players. If there is transparency and we see the numbers, not necessarily the dollar figures, but just the standings of these guys on a month-to-month basis, you realize how someone's conduct can positively or potentially negatively impact not just the broader tour, but their own actual revenue stream.
And we all use social media. There are some danger spots, I feel, in social media. It's still a bit of a wild west, but that's the era that we live in. And I think you're saying a great point in terms of the players that are coming up will see the importance of fan engagement and of being popular, not just inside the ropes, but outside the ropes as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a collective organization. You're part of the product.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is driving home. Particularly, we all know the context of the broader politics of the game that brought the Player Impact Program into existence. But it does reinforce the idea that players who are members are part of the product. It is their obligation to promote the product and do their best to promote the product for the good of everyone who is a member of that organization. And, you know, that's something that should be driven home to them. Making those numbers transparent and public does show them what the potential rewards of that are.